Good morning. Today is a bizarre day and we're gonna film during it and we're gonna talk all about the importance of rotation. Today is super bizarre because I don't have a single client, but I'm not mad about it. So I woke up at 8. I've been laying in bed for an hour with Kevin, having some coffee, but now we gotta start to get ready to film for the day. So one of the things I get asked about a lot is how to actually implement rotation into a workout. Because I think most people understand the general concept of like why it's important, which we will talk about in just a few minutes. But most of the comments and questions I get are like, okay, I understand why, but how am I supposed to do this? So that's exactly what we're gonna talk about today. Why rotation is important and then how to actually implement it into your workouts without like uprooting everything that you're doing. Before we do that though, we're gonna start to put on some makeup. Wow, it's a hair washing day. And let's just break down so we're on the same page. What are planes of motion? Because rotation does work in a specific plane of motion. So there are 3 different planes of motion. You have the sagittal plane, the frontal plane, and then the transverse plane. The sagittal plane moves you up and down, front to back. The frontal plane moves you side to side, and then the transverse plane is twisting or rotating. So let's put an example of an exercise in all 3 planes of motion. Let's look at different squat variations. So in the sagittal plane, we could have a front squat. In the frontal plane, we'd have a lateral squat. And then in the transverse plane, we have like a split squat with a rotation. And at least for me, one of the basic principles of why we want to train in all 3 planes of motion is simply because we live in a 360-degree world, so we should train for it. You know, you can obviously get more specific to you. For instance, a lot of my clients play pickleball, and in a game like that, you are moving more than just front and back, up and down. We want to make sure that you have good rotation mechanics. We want to make sure that you can jump to the side to get the ball, as well as a host of other things that just make it more specific. But this is why I always remind people, functional training doesn't mean anything else than just specific or purposeful. If you can argue that it enhances your daily life, you're good to go. Ooh, I'm getting hot. So that's the basics in terms of like planes of motion. In this video, we're gonna specifically just stick to rotation, or I guess moving in the transverse plane. But there's obviously gonna be a lot of overlap in benefits moving in all 3 planes of motion. So I'm gonna finish putting on my makeup. I'm heading to a studio in about an hour and a half. So I have to finish this, pack up my bag, eat something for sure. And it's a quick filming day, just 2 hours. So in between takes, we'll kind of meet back up there and we'll talk a little bit more about the benefits of rotation. I'll see you then. We're gonna take a minute because I have 3 more workouts to film. I have 45 minutes left in the space. I just need to give my shoulder a break. My like right shoulder, I actually don't know what I did. I heard it like 3 months ago and I don't know what I did this time. I think I just like overused it, maybe went like a little too heavy or too high volume on something, but I haven't been able to fully recover it because I have to demo shit all of the time. So anyway, we're gonna talk about the benefits of rotation while I just give my arm a little breather before we do 3 more workouts. So first and foremost, I want you to remember that the benefits of pretty much any type of training, there's probably overlap with another type of training somewhere. Meaning that if you cannot perform rotational exercises for whatever reason, you can probably get the benefits of it somewhere else. But let's list a few benefits and then we'll talk a little bit more specifically. So some of the benefits include improved hip mobility, increased performance, stronger core, reduced risk of injury, and increased speed and acceleration. So like I said, these are all pretty vague and you can probably hit all of these things in other types of training as well, but these are, in my opinion, some of the main benefits of training for rotation. I do want to talk a little bit more about other points though that are more specific directly to rotational training. You know, even if we take something as simple as walking, that requires rotation of our trunk, of our hips, of our pelvis to actually do that properly. And then what's a form of exercise that pretty much everyone does at some point in their life? Running. Running is just faster walking. So if you're doing this higher impact, higher intensity workout, but you don't have good rotation even as you're walking, you're not going to perform running as well as you would hope to be. Was that English? That was a sentence, right? You get what I'm saying. You know, unfortunately, due to a lot of our jobs nowadays, or even just a lot of our hobbies nowadays, our trunk or our torso tends to get stuck kind of in one position. This can cause us to have limited spinal mobility and can potentially lead to injury, or at least bare minimum, just discomfort. So by adding some rotational exercises into your warm-up, into your actual strength training, into your explosive drills, this is going to help bring more mobility into your spine, which is supposed to rotate, which is supposed to laterally bend, which is supposed to flex and extend. Now, kind of a tangent topic of this is talking all about like your thoracic cavity. Honestly, I think that requires like a separate video, because this one is talking more just like movement patterns and how to implement it. But I feel like creating space in the thoracic cavity is just like much more specific. But essentially, if we are crushing this space or this cavity in our body by, you know, having limited mobility or limited movement in the area, our breath is going to be compromised. Our core integrity is going to be compromised. And to be quite honest, you're probably just not going to feel great. If you want a whole other video on that, please let me know, because I do have some ideas of collaboration that I could do. So let me know. Okay, it is 12:18. I gotta be out of this room at 1 p.m. So do that math. 42 minutes, I think that's math. Let's finish out these workouts, and then we will meet back at home, and we're gonna talk more specifically about how to actually implement rotation into your workouts. I'm gonna take some very simple drills that you probably already do, and then show you how you can add rotation to them. Great, let's go. Hello. All right, I am in the throes of editing. You can't see that over here. Great. So I want to talk a little bit more about how to implement rotation into your training. So the last thing I want you to do is take your current program and just completely trash it. That's not the goal here. Instead, I just want to open your eyes on how you can diversify some of your different basic movement patterns to get a little bit more rotation in your workouts. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop up just like a few basic exercises that you might see in a typical program, and I'm going to show you how you can progress them or swap them for some rotational drills. Again, the goal isn't to make every single one of your exercises rotation based, but if you're already working on one of these, maybe a way to progress it is to add in some rotation. Now, something else to note with these exercises and the things that I'm going to walk you through is that you can rotate from a lot of different parts of the body: the shoulders, the hips, the thoracic spine, the ankles, the knees, and we're going to kind of cover all of that. So let's do it. So starting with power training, if you're doing something like a med ball slam, I would challenge you to add in some type of rotation, whether it is rotating from the trunk, whether it is rotating the entire body with a rainbow slam, but this is a nice way just to vary our slam variations. Let's say you're working on your lateral bounds or skaters. Instead of just keeping those hips forward, I would challenge you to add a little bit of rotation side to side with or without weight. And then finally, let's say you're working on your single arm swings. I would consider progressing these into a single arm rotational swing. So you're getting a nice rotation from that T-spine and really working on still generating power. Let's dive into some strength work. We're going to keep it super simple and start with a deadlift. So let's say you're working on your bilateral deadlifts, whether that's with a kettlebell, dumbbell, a barbell. I would either add in or maybe even progress your kettlebell deadlift to a kickstand deadlift with a rotation. So getting a little added rotation, you're actually going to get a better contraction or a deeper contraction on that glute, and you'll be working a little bit of T-spine rotation as well. Moving on to another compound lift here, a squat. Let's keep this like a bilateral front squat or goblet squat, something moving in that sagittal plane. Again, we can add in or progress that squat to a split squat with a rotation from the trunk. So really working again that T-spine rotation, working on keeping the hip stable as the trunk is rotating. Another pretty common lift is an overhead press. Again, let's say we are using kettlebells, dumbbells, barbells, but we're doing a bilateral overhead press. I would challenge you to either swap it or progress it to a single arm overhead press with a twist. this twist, let's say that we're going to use the entire lower body. So this is also going to help us tap into our glutes and our hip mobility to really press that entire pelvis to the side. And rounding out our strength section, let's say we're working on a bilateral row, dumbbells, kettlebells, barbell, whatever you want to put here. I would challenge you to either swap or progress this into a single arm cable row with a little bit of a rotation. So again, we're keeping the hips stable, rotating from that T-spine, and getting that added bonus of your T-spine mobility as well. Now again, do I need you to do all of these rotational options and never work in the sagittal plane? No. Remember that ideally when we zoom out, look at all of our workouts for the week, the month, we simply want to make sure that we're working in all planes of motion, not just one. So we're going to get back to editing. And in terms of the rest of our day, sorry, now I'm all distracted. It's about 4:15. I have to leave here in just about 2 hours. I'm going to dance rehearsal tonight. And then I am rushing my little Tushy home because the Eagles are playing the Vikings. If you're new here and don't know, go Birds, baby. This is a Phillies sweatshirt, but you get the idea. So yeah, I'll just kind of keep on taking you along, kind of wrap up our talk on rotation at some point, and I will see you later.